I'm Shelby, and this is my informative speech. This is my audience. In the 4th grade, my teacher let me run the film projector, tread, rewind, etc. I was otherwise very rambunctious during films. In 6th grade, I had trouble understanding science terms that worked other than as glossary meanings. A teacher told me that I could still know the answers if I explained the way I understood them. She took time to give me an oral science test. It boosted my confidence, and I was able to do written tests from thereafter. Those stories are not my own stories, but another who was sharing online about their personal experiences with teachers. At some point in life, every one of us is or has been affected both positively and negatively by teachers. Regardless of chosen vocation, many people do in fact find themselves in influential situations similar to that of as a teacher, if only to your own children at home. Why is teaching an important vocation to discuss? Well, I'd say because God thinks it's pretty important. In fact, in James 3:1-2, goes so far as to say that some people should avoid teaching as a vocation in general because God will judge those individuals more strictly. My credentials to speak about this topic include my personal experience as a teacher and a student. I have a history of attending many types of schools, including private, public, homeschool, and international school. My experience with classroom teaching includes teaching English as a second language to elementary students. A Christian teacher's obligation to prepare student for life is in society and career world crosses over into the spiritual and emotional realm, offering potential of eternal impact. Teachers' course curriculum is important, but teaching is also so much more than equipping students to regurgitate facts. It is also about teaching critical thinking and a person how to be well-rounded in personhood. At this time, I will now present to you, firstly, the statistics gathered to support that teachers do in fact have a huge influence on their students. Secondly, I will explain the ways that Christian teachers in particular may utilize this through their behaviors, and then finally through their academic curriculum. Continuing on, teachers have a huge influence on their students. Dan Goldhaber recounts Tennessee's assessment of teacher impact, as Tennessee is one of the few states with data systems in place to track teachers over time and link them to students' achievement scores. They found a wide range of effectiveness among teachers. There are some very good and some very bad. Using the Sanders methodology, teachers are placed into effectiveness quintiles based on their students' growth and achievement or value added by the teachers. Those teachers who fall into the first quintile, the least effective teachers, were found to average student gains roughly 14% points in a year. The effects of teacher quality, the effective teachers, on the other hand, cited an average gain of 52 percentile points a year. The effects of teacher quality were also found to persist for years after that student had that particular teacher. Okay, so now let's talk about these teachers actually doing what causes such long-term effects that Goldhaber was discussing. What makes a good teacher? Teacher behavior and teacher response to students in daily life affect the students. Collective data and long-term study done on all the schools in the state in Tennessee show that, of course, teacher influence varies. The qualities of teacher can be measured, such as educational achievements and years and test scores compared to intangible and unmeasurable qualities such as attitude and ability to connect and communicate with students. The tangible making up a 3% difference in the students and the intangible a 97%. Typically, students admire and look up to a teacher who respects younger people and his or own students. I personally remember a teacher I admired in 8th grade, my English teacher, Mrs. Thompson, because she treated us like adults, and therefore we were able to actually act like adults because she affirmed that in our minds that we were capable. She was also able to get to know us and pray for us. In public school, I realize this is not the same situation. However, public school teachers do have an opportunity to pray for their students and get to know them on a personal level outside of class. Now that we've discussed the teacher behavior and his or her character reflection on students, I'm going to my third point: teachers actually using the curriculum to reach out to students. The academic side of influence. How can a teacher use course curriculum and even a secular world to expose their students to God's truths? Well, first let's talk about the subject matter. As much as we previously discussed Goldhaber's explanations of teachers' influence regardless of curriculum and education level, he does comment that there is some connection between a teacher's knowledge of the subject and the student's understanding, particularly in classes such as math and science, understandably because those are very mechanical courses. But how about subjects such as history, English, or electives such as world, religion, and psychology? These subjects, for example, open up opportunity to talk about motivations and thought patterns throughout history and why people think the way they think and who decides. A teacher's worldview almost certainly comes across in one way or another, whether how objective they try to be. Teaching critical thought is very important in these situations, asking questions, making students think for themselves, and guiding those questions. For example, my old psychology teacher attempted to be objective and ask questions and allow us to think for ourselves. In the end, his worldview always did show through as the right answer, but I admired his attempt to allow his students to think for themselves. A negative example would be my science teacher, who did not allow us to ask questions and think for ourselves, but just taught evolution, for example, as fact and something to be accepted. A Psychology Today article comments, "The simple act of asking questions can reduce this bias," and I add, enabling and allowing people to answer those questions, to process and consider the answer for themselves. The instructor can then ask for their thoughts and offer a wide range of sensible answers, and then ask the students to consider other views. To close, evidence shows teachers have a daily and often lifetime effect on their students. Teachers' character response to students in the classroom and using course material does have a major effect on students. And asking questions can always teach them to think for themselves and become well-rounded thinkers. Thank you for your time, and I hope you, while you listen, maybe you were able to reminisce on your own good memories of teachers.